Hi, happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Cover to Cover. You're here with Mo,
Andrea, and Morgan.
We have some kind of exciting news stories we want to discuss with you today. But first, we just want to chat a little bit about what did we read this weekend. And then we have some cool secret histories of authors that we want to discuss with you. But first, what did you guys read this weekend?
I started the Spinster Brides of Cactus Corner. So over the weekend, I went to a big family reunion. We were celebrating my grandpa's 50th anniversary of his death in the Vietnam War, and so we all got together, and I got to meet lots of family members and see what my kinfolk do. So a new family member that I met is a writer, and so I'm really excited. She was handing out books, and so I was all over that. So she does a lot of timepieces and takes you back. So after I read this, I'm definitely letting you borrow this one, Morgan. I'm really excited about this one.
I can't wait. So do y'all ever have a weekend where you just don't do the things you wanted to do?
Always.
Yeah, so that was my weekend. I did a lot of things, but you're going to laugh at me about the book I read. I read this book on how to train your dog.
Cute.
So
That's really important stuff, so that's no shade at all.
this is the workbook, and so Canine Dimensions is doing my dog training. I have two small dogs. One of them is about 3 months old. He's a rescue, so we don't know. The other one is about 7, also a rescue. So I read this. That was my weekend. No time to do anything else but work on training my dogs.
You did your homework, though.
I
it's
did.
important.
Yeah, the trick now is training my husband.
Maybe you can use the same principles that you learned and just transfer it over and just give him treats every now and
Well,
then.
the problem is that we say we're going to do one thing, like not let the dogs on the sofa, and then my husband is such a softie that he just lets them up when I'm not home, and I'm like, what? We need to make a decision. What are we going to do? We need to be consistent in our training. So that's probably one of our biggest problems right now, with training.
Well, that's really good weekend reading because that's going to change your quality of life later down the road when
Yeah.
they learn to behave.
Yeah,
So that's
when they're
good.
actually good.
I also had one of those weekends where I really didn't get to read as much as I wanted to because I'm like such a busybody, so I'm always all over the place making too many plans, kind of
Yep.
like you do. You're always like, I have 4 meetings right now.
Yeah.
That's my weekend. I do that with my friends. So there was a lot of that this weekend, but I did have time to read a little bit of Dragonfly and Amber, which is the second book in the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon. I really loved the first Outlander book. I don't know if you guys have read it or are familiar with it.
No, I haven't.
It's really big in pop culture right now because it was made into a show on Starz, which is one of those fancy channels that you have to pay for or borrow a login from, which is what I will be doing. So it's really cool, and it has all these elements of time travel and fantasy and magic, but also a lot of history. Everything that happens in the book is based around the history of the Scottish Highlands, which I think is fascinating. And I went to a Scottish heritage school, so that was the first thing that piqued my interest in it. So I've really been enjoying kind of diving in and then like Googling about the history because I don't know if you guys do that when you read stuff. And if I don't know what's happening or like I'm not familiar with it, I get in like a Wikipedia wormhole.
Oh, the
where-
vortex, the Wikipedia vortex.
Yeah.
No joke. That is so my life.
And then like you start with learning about the Scottish Highlands and the Jacobites and the wars there, and then somehow you end up on like how Mary Shelley created Frankenstein, and like those things aren't connected. So I did a little bit of wormholing this weekend, and I read a little bit. So I super recommend Outlander for anyone who needs a little romance, fantasy, and adventure in their lives. So you guys might check it out.
Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah. So speaking of these great books that we like, there's so many authors out there that have written all kinds of different things. But what happens in their life outside of being an author? They have all these weird secret histories. So we put together just a couple of things that we wanted to tell you about and each other. So did you ladies know Bram Stoker, who wrote Dracula, was a crazy conspiracy theorist?
No way.
Love
yeah.
a good conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. So I don't know how you feel about that, but that kind of makes me like him better because I
What
love
kind of conspiracies, though?
a lot of like political stuff. So he had these like interesting political leanings, and he would just kind of spout out like all of these things are happening, but then also I read this vampire novel, so don't forget to buy it. So I really like that about him. A little fact about me is that I love conspiracy theories. I don't buy into them. I just really want to hear all about them, and like I want you to try to sway me, even if like I'm definitely not on board. So that's one cool thing that I learned.
Okay, wait. I got a better one, though.
Okay. Okay.
you're not going to believe this one. Mark Twain invented the bra strap.
What?
Yeah, no joke. He has a patent. It was under his other name, but made the bra strap better. It was patented in like 1871 or something like that.
Did he make it better? That's debatable.
Why was he working on this? I don't know.
That kind of makes sense because he was kind of like an inventor along with, he was just
true.
like an eccentric kind of person, but
Yeah.
that's really
That's an interesting fact, though.
Yeah.
I like that. Did you guys know that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle actually believed in Houdini's magic?
What? He thought he was a
Yeah.
real magician?
Yeah. So it was
Wait,
crazy.
he's not?
So it was really funny. Houdini always wanted to reach on beyond the grave and talk to his mother, but he was a grand illusionist, so he knows how everything is fake. But early on in his career, he and his wife would actually perform seances and all of that in the audience to put food on the table, of course. And Sir Arthur Conan Doyle like totally played into all of this, and his wife actually started getting into seances and performing those. And so he and his wife invited Sir Arthur Conan Doyle over, and they were like, "Hey, we're gonna like help you reach out to your mom." And they totally believed that Houdini believed all of this. They were like, "Oh, he was so moved." And then Houdini later on was like, "Yeah, no, that my mother wouldn't have had that kind of grammar." So
Yeah.
but it was really interesting. And Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and his wife even had this like spirit guide who would tell them when to move and when to travel and all this stuff. His name was
Wow.
Phineas. So fun fact there.
I feel
thought that was
like
interesting.
I feel like that's kind of sad that he really believed it. And then if Houdini knew that he believed it, he kind of let him live this lie. And he was such a like important person that now I'm kind of sad for him.
Yeah.
But also I wish Houdini was really a magician
Me
because
too.
then that means magic is real. So
Wait, it's not?
Come on.
up for debate. More on that later. But I have another crazy fact that maybe
Okay.
you guys hadn't heard of. Did you guys know that Maya Angelou used to be a prostitute?
I've heard that.
Isn't that crazy?
She had a lot of crazy careers early on. I think she, I don't know the timing of it, but I think she also did something at a church when she was younger, and then she worked in a restaurant, was a friar or something like that. Like, really random things.
Yeah. As a young black woman during the time she lived in America, she certainly had to always have a job and be changing pace and finding different ways to make money. And I don't bring up that she was a prostitute to besmirch her history or to say she's not a great person, because of course she is, and she was prolific and influential and one of the greatest voices of her times. So I just think that it was really interesting that she had to live as a prostitute.
It gives you a different element when
Yeah.
you're reading her work.
And everything she writes so deeply and emotionally, so it kind of just gives another element to the heart and the movement that she was coming from. So now I feel like I made like an even deeper special place in my heart for her, because that must have
Wow.
been really difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at one point I lived in Greensboro, North Carolina, and she was in Winston-Salem. I lived in Greensboro in 2014 when she passed, and she was in Winston-Salem, which it's 45-minute drive away.
Did you guys do anything in your town to celebrate, or?
I don't remember anything.
No? Okay.
So, no, but I remember people talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Fun fact, Stieg Larsson, Swedish writer, actually trained guerrillas of warfare, female guerrillas of warfare in Africa.
What?
So he taught these women how to shoot grenade launchers and all this good stuff.
That makes
really cool.
sense because he's famous for writing the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series, and his main character, Lisbeth Salander, I think her name is, she was very intense. She was a very intense person who was extremely capable of taking care of herself. I bet he drew a lot of inspiration from that.
It was great. I mean, he was helping these women gain independence from Ethiopia.
Oh,
Interesting.
It's really cool.
Well, here's another one. Philip K. Dick had visions, saw visions. So
yeah.
I don't know what to make about that. If it was really too much drugs, or was it
Okay.
a religious?
Did they say what kind of, was it like his personal, or like what's going on in the world, the future?
Just visions?
Just visions.
Visions.
I
Okay.
like that because he's a science fiction writer, so
Yeah.
it kind of makes perfect sense for him to have this interesting world perspective that he could draw from to create these crazy postmodernism storylines. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm into that. Okay, I have one more for you
All right,
guys.
one more.
This is unsavory. very unsavory. Did you know that Charles Dickens had a thing for dead people?
Like, when you say had a thing, what does that mean?
I just feel like I could elaborate, but what do you think it means?
Write in the comments.
Yeah, so
Let us know.
that's an uncomfortable thing about Charles Dickens, and obviously he's a really important writer, and he's written all these great things, A Tale of Two Cities and other things.
Yeah.
So that does give me pause. It doesn't change how I feel about his work, because I feel like you have to judge a writer and their work kind of separately, because you might find out like horrible things about writers, but it doesn't change how amazing their stories are, or the influence that they can have over a movement or a generation. But no thank you, Charles Dickens. That is not cool.
You know, if we're honest, we all have something weird about ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess we don't want to share those things.
Well,
yeah. But if you know any other interesting stories about authors, please let us know. We would love to see that in the comments and explore some more lives of authors.
yeah. And when we get back from this short break that we're going to take, Andrew's going to fill us in on some of the news that's happening, and we can kind of chat about how that's making us feel.
Yeah.
Exciting news. The American dream is a long-held ideology that appeals to many people around the world. Richard Reeves, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute, has a forthcoming book called Dream Hoarders: How the Upper American Middle Class is Leaving Everyone Else in the Dust and Why That is a Problem, and What to Do About It, in which he makes the argument that the top 20% of Americans, those with six-figure incomes and above, are dominating the best locations to live, the best schools, and in turn, they pass on the best futures to their children, while pushing out the less fortunate. In an interview with NPR's Steve Inskeep, Reeves says members of the American upper middle class, who through various ways of rigging the market, are essentially hoarding the American dream. Reeves is originally from England and has been shocked by the opportunity hoarding mechanisms in America. Reeves goes on to say that he believes the separation from the upper middle class from the rest of society is a huge problem for politics. Because there is a sense of a bubble, there's a sense of separation occupationally, residentially, educationally, and economically from the rest of society. So what do you guys think? I mean, obviously he's kind of an outsider making some large claims about America. What are your personal thoughts?
I want to know, how is the middle class rigging the system? I want to know what he means by that.
So what I take away from it is that he's saying the upper middle class, so that's different from the lower middle class. So the upper middle class has this sense of propriety. They have all of these connections. They were probably born into the upper middle class. So it's getting harder and harder to achieve being in the upper middle class when you don't come from it. So I think that's what he means. You have these children, and then you hoard the opportunities that are available for them. Whereas down the road, there's children just like one block over in a different school district that doesn't get the same kind of education that those upper middle class
I mean,
kids
is it
do.
really hoarding though? Or is it just, this is where you are at life, and you have the money and you have the resources, and it's true, like, people of wealth, certain people live near each other, and so they create these communities. Those communities have more tax dollars, they have better schools, there's more incentive for developers to come in and build new things and make it a nicer place. Like,
I hear what you're saying.
is that hoarding,
Yeah.
or is that
I hear what
just-
you're saying, like they worked for what they have, but I do feel like it is hoarding. I feel like if they're so blessed to have so many good things, that it's their responsibility to share those things with less fortunate children. Because is it the children's fault that their parents weren't able to provide a better school district with bigger tax dollars? I don't think it is, and I think that it's really unfair. And since I grew up in a really underprivileged home, it took me a lot to get to where I am today. So I feel
understand, yeah.
really passionate about it, and I think that maybe we could just do more education and more outreach and more scholarships and try to get these children from the lower middle class or even lower who live in poverty or at the poverty line, give them more resources so that they can have the same, options.
And that's fair. I mean, like he said, there are these bubbles. But, I mean, America is a land of opportunity, and there are so many people who have made it. And I think he's kind of painting with a broad brush, what America is. I mean,
He's making a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, I mean, think about Oprah Winfrey, and then Ursula Burns, CEO of Xerox, Steve Jobs, Taraji P. Henson. I mean, she came to Hollywood with $700 in her pocket and her son and made it. I mean, she was just in Hidden Figures, Empire. I mean, she's made something for herself, and everyone can really do that. I mean, yeah, there are so many people who have to work a lot harder, but, to say that it's nearly impossible, I think it is attainable.
I think those are really good examples of people who've achieved the American dream, and I think we can look at the examples that they give us for how we should act, because Oprah is constantly donating money to the underprivileged. She supports all these different tribes in Africa, and she does that because she knows that it's really, really difficult.
True, but, all right, so a recent study came out to measure who is more generous, who is more altruistic, who gives more, and this is really hard to study. And just let me pause for a second and let all of y'all know that I studied economics. I have a master's in economics, and so I'm a complete nerd over all of this stuff. And there is really no difference between the rich and the poor about who gives more. There's a lot of other factors, but I do want to point out one book because we love book recommendations. There is a book, it's more of an academic book written for everyday people. It's called Scarcity, and it's by a Harvard economist. His name is Sindel Mullahyathan, and he does study after study after study and concludes that when you are poor, when you lack resources, it impacts your cognitive function. So he calls it a scarcity trigger. And think about yourself when you've been in really hard times. Like anytime I was in school, I had no money. If my mom's watching, I love you, but my parents didn't have any money and did not save any money for me to go to school. I mean, they didn't think I would go and get 3 degrees. So I had to pay for it. They helped, but I had to work all throughout undergrad and 2 graduate programs. And when you're poor and you're concerned about money, it takes up mental capacity, and you can't make the kind of decisions that other people can make because it's just consuming you. When you're thinking about, my car is about to break down and I need $1,000. It's harder to plan, it's harder to save, it's harder to get yourself out of a rut. Now, I want to bring up this book because you're making great points about how can we support people in lower classes. And so this is a really good book to understand the poor and what's going on. It's not that they're dumb, it's not that they're stupid, it's not that they're not trying, it's just that sometimes life consumes you and you can't get out of it. So that is a really great book to read. I can give you recommendation after recommendation after recommendation on different books to read because I'm just really passionate about this subject.
Yeah.
I will say I like what you just said, and I feel you on that 100%. And I also feel that I went through a lot of years of struggle, especially with money. I had a part-time and then a full-time job, and then I had 3 jobs my senior year of college just to make it through. And I feel like that really influenced who I am as a person and really has made me appreciate how hard it was to get to where I am and all of the things that I have. And I don't spend extravagantly. I'm kind of good at saving. I try. And I really appreciate when I get to do vacations and stuff. So I think it really is important to spend a little bit of your life being a little poor. For me, that's been my experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good point. I think that's really important.
You know what? We should make this point. The founder of our company has given away thousands and thousands and thousands of books. I know he wouldn't like me saying this and promoting this, but what if we did something together with everyone who's watching? And we gave away books to help people.
That's a great idea. Let's figure out some kind of campaign that we can put together to help younger people get out on the right foot or have just a big picture perspective of where they
Yes.
want to go.
Yeah.
That's important. That's
Yeah.
a great idea, Morgan. Okay,
Just thought of it.
we'll talk about that some more hopefully next time or later this week.
Yeah. So, we got some more news, don't
Okay.
we? What else is going on?
So, last week, J.R.R. Tolkien was back in the news with the release of a new book, Beren and Luthien, adapted from a story he conceived 100 years prior. Beren and Luthien, a story reiterated across many Tolkien works, were published on Thursday, June 1st, with the help of Tolkien's son, Christopher Tolkien. The book is also illustrated by Alan Lee, famous for illustrating many Tolkien works over the course of his career. Beren and Luthien is a very personal story to Tolkien and is a tale that went on to inspire and mirror the story of Arwen and Aragorn that we love and know from The Lord of the Rings. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about this story with you guys. I know, Mo, you probably have a lot to say about Beren and Luthien, and it's such a special love story, especially in his personal life.
Yeah, so the girls are sick of hearing me talk about this. I am such a huge Tolkien fan. I was obsessed with it as a kid. The Hobbit was my favorite book, and I've just kind of done all the wormholes that you can go to. I've done it. I've read all the companion stories. So Beren and Luthien was inspired by Tolkien's love for his wife Edith, and he came back from World War I, and then they went on a walk, and then she danced in a field of flowers, and it inspired him to think of this story where they meet, Beren and Luthien. Beren is a mortal man, Luthien is an elvish princess, and the story became so intrinsic and intertwined in their relationship that when they died, their headstones read Beren and Luthien above their names.
I love that.
To him,
Love that.
the story is their love and it is their marriage. And it did influence Arwen and Aragorn, which is such a prolific love story that we're very familiar with if we know anything about The Lord of the Rings. So I think it's just beautiful and I love it.
Yes, it's so sweet. I love that it's on their epitaph. I mean, that to me, that means so much. That's something that has been sitting on their epitaph, and now after 100 years of his inspiration, it's out in the open. It's out there for us to read. So I'm really excited about that one.
All right, so I got a better one. Everyone knows that I'm a Nicholas Sparks fan. I've read every Nicholas Sparks book. But did you know that The Wedding, which is one of his books, it came out in like 2000 something, is based off the children of Noah and Allie from The Notebook, which was written in 1996. So in The Wedding, the characters are trying to rekindle their love and these are the children as they are planning the grandchildren of Noah and Allie's wedding.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, and
It's so special when love can live on.
it lives on, and Noah and Allie's marriage and their whole story was an inspiration to the two main characters in this story who are trying to rekindle their love later in life.
That's so great.
I cried and cried and cried reading this book. Well, speaking of other great love stories, let us know some of your favorite ones. And in just a moment, we're going to hear what Tiffany has to say, right?
I think so. I think she's going to tell us a little bit about what's on her nightstand.
Yeah.
And then maybe when we get back, we can talk about some more love stories that we like as well.
Oh, sounds good. So, Tiffany, what's on your nightstand?
Thanks, girls. Hi, everyone. It's Tiffany here, and today we're going to be talking about the best-selling novel by Lisa See called The Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane. Now, you might have heard of some of Lisa's books before. She wrote the New York Times best-selling novels Snowflower and the Secret Fan, Peony in Love, Shanghai Girls, China Dolls, Dreams of Joy, and On Gold Mountain. She has quite the list, yeah? She's been honored by the Organization of Chinese American Women as National Woman of the Year, and she is also the recipient of the Chinese American Museum's History Makers Award. So I think if you love Amy Tan's work, like the Joy Luck Club, you'll absolutely love Lisa See's books. So back to today's book, The Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane. It takes place on a tea farm in a remote Chinese mountain village that is steeped in ritual and routine. One day, a stranger in a Jeep shows up, and it's the first car any of the villagers have seen. This marks the entrance of the modern world with the old world culture. The main character's name is Leanne. She's one of the few educated girls on her mountain, and she starts rebelling against the village customs. For example, she has a baby out of wedlock, and instead of giving the child over to be killed as her traditions call for, She wraps the baby in a blanket with a little tea cake and leaves it in a close orphanage in a nearby city. So while Leanne struggles to leave her village in pursuit of education and city life, her daughter is raised with privileges in California. The book is about these two women, separated by circumstance, separated by culture and distance, and of course the enduring connection of mothers and daughters. This book is broken into 5 parts and spans from 1988 to 2016. I love how the author inserted little snippets of letters between some of the people. It really put a special touch to the book to me. And in addition to this powerful mother-daughter story, you get to learn about tea culture, which is totally fascinating to me. So are you ready to read this one? Be sure to wait for the end of the show because we're dropping the price of this hardcover book to only 99 cents for a short time after the show. So that's it for me, guys. I hope you'll enjoy reading this week. And stay tuned for our next episode of Cover to Cover when we'll be dropping the price of another bestseller. I'm Tiffany Harlick, and this was What's on My Nightstand.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. So thank you for talking about the Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane. So you guys can get this for 99 cents. We're having a flash sale at the end of this episode for 19 minutes. So at the conclusion of this episode, be sure to grab one of these books. Thank you, Tiffany.
Okay, and in the meantime, we have some more love stories that we want to tell you about in case you haven't read these books, and you can pick up a copy and just fall in love all over again. So, do you guys know Wesley and Buttercup?
Of course. Who
And
doesn't?
The Princess Bride. So it's such a sweet love story about a princess who didn't have time for the stable boy, and then she gets kidnapped, and he goes on this epic adventure and journey to save her, and then in the end she realizes all she ever needed was him, and they live happily ever after, so I love it.
I saw your picture. You have like kind of a Princess Bride inspired wedding, yes?
Yeah, a little bit. I was really into the Princess Bride. So, in fact, last year for Halloween, I was Buttercup and my husband was Wesley.
Oh.
So
I'll
it was
see a
like
picture of that.
totally adorable. And at our wedding, we kept referring to me as the Princess Bride because, of course. So, yeah, so I really like them. What's another love story that you like?
Okay, obviously, Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet. I mean, come on. Pride and Prejudice is my favorite love story, and I don't think anyone can beat their love.
Yeah.
So that one's definitely one of my favorites. How about you, Morgan?
I'm a little embarrassed to say this one. Christian Grey. Yeah,
So him and Anastasia?
Yeah.
You like that?
it's not my type of book. Okay. I have read all 3 of them. Don't judge me.
No judgment.
no.
This is a judgment-free zone. We're just chatting.
No, it's just an interesting story of it's not love, but it's love, and she's trying to figure it out. It's really bizarre. And
Okay. Hashtag all books matter.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Another love story that I really like, it comes from the Harry Potter series, and people are always thinking about Ron and Hermione or Mr. and Mrs. Weasley, but the love story that I really want to talk about is Lupin and Tonks. And I think they have such a special love, and that they sacrificed so much for the cause that they ended up, oh my gosh, spoiler alert, spoilers.
Hey.
They ended up dying at the end of the book, leaving behind a child that they had just had. And they did it because they knew that it was the right thing to do. But their journey from just friends to like married lovers was so beautiful because Lupin was a werewolf, and he didn't want to bother her or bring her life down at all with all of his difficulties. But she loved him so much that she was like, you cannot get rid of me. Like, it's this or it's nothing. And so they grew on to get married, and it was so sweet, and it affected the lives of all of those around them. So when they died, it was really, really tragic. And I mean, I was just sitting and crying in my bedroom, and still when I read it, I cry. So I think that's a really beautiful love story.
Okay.
Love it.
I love Tristan and Isolde. It is based off of a Celtic legend, and it has been said to have influenced Guinevere and Lancelot. So did you guys know that? And it influenced a lot of love stories after that. It's an Anglo-Norman tale, and I think it's so, so beautiful. If you guys love Romeo and Juliet, I mean, this tragedy came way before, so you'll have to definitely check that one out. I love that one.
Yeah, that's great. Romeo and Juliet, that was the other one I was going to mention.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But now I'm trying to think what love stories have influenced my marriage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's a big question. You
That
better
is-
say the right thing because he's listening.
Maybe that will be the book I write. about our love story.
Wouldn't that
Aw.
be sweet to
Yeah.
and then your children, if you ever have any, can read that in the future, or your friends and your family and
Yeah.
know how special that was for you.
Yeah.
And publish them.
So speaking of special relationships, we know that authors write a lot about love, but where do they draw their inspiration from for their characters and relationships? So we all know that J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis are really big friends. That's kind of a famous sort of situation. So what are some other friendships between authors that have affected the way that they write and the way that future authors write? Do you guys know of any?
Yeah, Harper Lee and Truman
Capote.
Capote.
Yeah,
there we
that's
go.
right.
Yeah. So they were childhood friends.
Yeah.
And they started reading together and writing together. I think one of their fathers gave them a typewriter and they took turns writing.
cute.
Yeah. And so they went through a lot of things in life as children, and it really influenced their writing and the rest of their friendships. It's very interesting.
Okay, here's one, Hemingway and Fitzgerald. And I kind of see them more as frenemies. So, they picked on each other a lot. And, Hemingway would send works to Fitzgerald, and then Fitzgerald would send it back with 10 pages of edits, and then Hemingway would write back, kiss my... and, they had just this interesting relationship. So I love delving into them, and you guys will have to check them out too.
I wonder if they had that relationship because they made each other better that way.
Okay. I
Maybe.
like that, yeah.
Well, if you guys know, tell us in the comments, or if you have any other author friendships, please let us know, because we would love to learn about that. And don't forget about our flash sale at the end of the episode. You can get the Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane for 99 cents for the next 19 minutes. And we will be back here on Wednesday, June the 7th, 9 a.m. Central Time.
Oh, and don't forget, share this link, send us a message. You need to message us, and we'll send you one of our t-shirts.
Yes, so snag yourself a t-shirt, send us that message, tell us what size you want and what style. We have this ladies v-neck, but then we also have men's crew neck. So just shoot us a message.
Or
let
ladies
us
can wear the
know.
crew neck too.
It's for anyone,
Yep.
whatever you want.
So,
All right.
all right, we'll see you
see you
on
there.
Wednesday.
Bye. Have a good week.